was 7 years ago that our very first Electron rocket was ready on the pad at Rocket Lab Launch Complex 1, waiting to make its debut launch to space. And standing in its place now is our 50th Electron rocket, ready to make its way to low Earth orbit in just 40 minutes or so. Hello, I'm Muriel Baker, and today I am joining you live from inside our Mission Control Center as we celebrate our 50th liftoff with the very people who design, build, test, and launch our Electron rocket. Bonjour aussi et bienvenue to our launch customer today, Kinéis, an Internet of Things company from France. Today's mission is called No Time Toulouse, in a nod to the name of their home city. And liftoff this morning is set for just after 6 a.m., 6:13 local time and 6:13 UTC. This mission is a special one for our team as it's our 50th Electron launch since our very first mission in May 2017. Now, Electron has had been a record-breaking rocket since its debut by being the world's first carbon composite orbital rocket, as well as the first rocket powered by 3D printed engines and electric pumps instead of traditional gas turbines. And with this 50th liftoff, we are set to break another record because Electron has reached 50 launches faster than any other commercially developed rocket in history. A huge achievement for our team that is testament to their dedication and tenaciousness in making dedicated, responsive access to orbit a reality for small satellites. And here to tell us more about the milestones along the way to 50 launches are my colleagues Prachi and Jamie.
Thanks, Muriel, and thank you all for joining us today. My name is Prachi Saknani.
And I'm Jamie Gilbert. It's great to be here on this really exciting morning for Electron and the whole Rocket Lab team.
Some days it feels like we've blinked and now we're at 50 launches, but the reality is we've packed a whole lot of complex missions, engineering evolution, and exciting achievements into these 7 years since Electron first took to the skies.
That's right, and we could tell you more, but we're going to go one better and show you instead.
So I started Rocket Lab in 2007 with one goal in mind, and that was to make space more accessible and more affordable for everybody. We are Rocket Lab. We are totally unreasonable people doing totally unreasonable things. You see, space is now open for business. Thank you very much. So with that, I think really there's only one more thing to do, and that's cut the ribbon and declare this launch site open. Right behind me here is the latest addition to the facility, Pad B.
And liftoff of Electron from Launch Complex 2, leaving US soil for the first time and on its way to space up and over the Atlantic Ocean.
It has been quite a ride for the past 49 Electron launches, and we're excited to continue that today with number 50.
Now, before we get into the details for today's payload, it is time to check in with our operators on console and mission control for one of the final pre-launch polls. This is where our launch director will poll each of the operators to understand the status of their critical systems, including weather, avionics, guidance, range clearance, and more. If the operators confirm that their systems are green tracking green, this means they're in good shape for liftoff and everything is operating as planned. Let's listen in for those calls.
All stations LD on mission, proceeding with the status poll for launch sequence. Stand by for poll for current and expected status for launch. Report green or red, tracking green or red for launch. Stage.
Stage is green, tracking green.
Avionics.
Avionics is green, tracking green.
GNC.
GNC is green, tracking green.
VCON.
VCON is green, tracking green.
T1.
T1 is green, tracking green.
GC.
GC is green, tracking green.
PLS.
PLS is green, tracking green.
RSO.
RSO is green, tracking green.
MET.
MET is green, tracking green.
MM.
MM is green, tracking green.
All right, thank you all. And MET, LD on mission.
MET.
Can you please provide a weather brief for T0?
Okay, so that shower we've been monitoring on the radar continues to move towards LC1, but it is weakening and the leading edge is dissipating. So we're looking at even later, more like 6:30 before it starts to affect LC1. POV remains 30%.
Copy, thank you, Matt. And T1 LD mission.
That's greens all across the board there, confirmed by launch director Michael Pearson. Today's launch is a special one for all of us, but especially for Michael, as it's his 50th launch on console. While we have a bunch of folks who have been on board with us since Flight 1, Michael is the only operator to have been on console for every single launch.
The launch director role is absolutely critical on launch day because the person in that seat needs to ensure that all teams remain on track for an on-time liftoff. They are constantly checking in with operators to confirm their critical tasks have been completed and then making decisions based on inputs from the team and a bunch of sensors too. And if any issues do crop up, they're charged with leading troubleshooting efforts and working them through to resolution before liftoff. So it's a big task, but Michael makes it look easy. But enough about the team on Earth. What are we sending to space today? Well, inside Electron's fairing, patiently awaiting their ride to orbit, are 5 satellites for French company Kinéis, who specialize in Internet of Things technology, or IoT. It's the first of 5 dedicated Electron launches booked by Kinéis to deploy their complete constellation of 25 satellites. What this constellation aims to do is connect IoT-enabled devices anywhere in the world and enable them to transmit data to users in near real time. Each of the satellites is what we call a 16U platform, so a bit bigger than a toaster, plus a cool antenna too, which weighs around 30 kilograms. And this means the total payload mass for today's Electron launch is around 150 kilograms, or about 308 pounds. So let's hear more from the team at Kinéis.
Kinéis is a French company based in Toulouse. We are a satellite operator and a global connectivity provider dedicated to the Internet of Things. Mountains, oceans, deserts. 85% of our planet has no network coverage. In 2020, we raised a large amount of 100 million euros to address this global issue. Today, we are following through and will deploy a constellation of 25 nanosatellites that will enable us to connect to a multitude of objects anywhere on the planet in near real time. We are convinced that this transmission of information made possible by satellite connectivity will enable us to respond to crucial challenges for mankind, its activities, and its environments. On the environmental front, for example, Kinéis connectivity can detect a fire outbreak in less than 15 minutes, thus considerably reducing the extent of the outbreak and reducing the loss of property and human life. The same goes for monitoring water levels to prevent flooding and use this dwindling resource. The applications are endless, whether for locating, monitoring, or alerting. Since the creation of Kinéis in 2018, our teams have been working with this objective in mind. Our 25 nanosatellites that weigh only 28 kilograms are real technological gems. The retractable UHF antenna, for example, can hear a bird sing within a rock concert 650 kilometers from the Earth. We fitted them with thrusters to ensure they stay on track for their mission. Some even carry children's drawings. That's amazing. At the same time, we have deployed many ground stations worldwide and have a sovereign infrastructure to guarantee data transmission to our clients. Today marks a significant milestone for Kinéis. Rocket Lab will launch our first 5 satellites, which have been meticulously placed with millimeter-level precision under the fairing. Soon, it will be possible to locate and monitor various objects across the globe that address fundamental issues in our society. We can't wait to see the first steps toward our constellation. Thanks, anyone. Thanks to all teams.
We are so excited to get the first 5 of these Kinéis satellites into orbit just over 29 minutes from now.
When our first Electron flight, dubbed It's a Test, launched in May 2017, we had a team of only around 150 people. But today, our team is closer to 2,000 people. And they're based across the US, New Zealand, and Canada, working on Electron, working on HASTE, working on Neutron, as well as our various space systems and space component programs. So it seemed like a good time to catch up with some of the folks who've been with us throughout that rapid evolution, not only to hear about what that first launch felt like, but also what has changed since.
I've been on console for every single launch since Flight 1. I don't know if that means I'm crazy or what, but I mean, how can you miss them? They're exciting and they're, stressful, but the reward is immeasurable.
For the first launch of Electron, my role was centered at the launch site, running the countdown for the local team, all from a very makeshift mission control room down at the launch site. It was essentially a 40-foot sea container and was quite intense. There was always things you could predict that could go wrong, and then there was always something that you couldn't quite predict that came out of nowhere. A lot of hard work from the team, a lot of really quick thinking, a lot of really just good engineering decisions made.
As you could sort of went through the launch procedures on the day, you could tell we were getting better and closer every time.
Once it finally lifted off the pad, I think the first thing I felt was this huge sense of relief. Probably half a second later, this terrifying fear that it was, gonna go okay, and I hope that it went okay, and ultimately, it, for the most part, it went very well. And
when I was a kid, I told my parents I wanted to work for NASA. And I didn't have any particular dreams of what that would be. I just thought space is awesome, NASA is awesome, sounds like a bit of me.
Having grown up as a kid, I remember having a space shuttle birthday cake one year and things like that. So to be at a point where we're actually launching payloads for NASA was a big deal.
Hard to pick a favorite mission. I think each one has its own story to tell. Flight 1's obviously special because it went from a dream to some hard work to reality. So that was really cool to see. But I think all our major milestone missions for government customers have been really impressive to pull off.
I think my favourite mission is still number 4. So that was the NASA Alana mission we did.
Definitely some of our recovery missions. There's a really special feeling watching a rocket go to space, but watching it come back under a parachute and splash down gently in the ocean. That's pretty wild as well.
The moon mission has been a highlight.
Probably the capstone mission. That mission required us to fundamentally change some of our main products like the LOX pump, the Caro pump, our injectors, and just being part of the team that made the smallest rocket reach the moon is the coolest thing ever, right?
Can't pick just one, so I'll have to pick 2, and that would be the 2 NASA Tropics missions that we did last year. I think I just loved the purpose of that mission and what those satellites were aiming to do, and it was so exciting to be working with NASA and MIT Lincoln Labs And on top of that one, I didn't manage this mission, but I think the first mission from LC2.
Flight 33, which was our first launch from LC2. That was years of work, from a ton of people to make that happen.
All of the hard work that we've put in to launch Electron from New Zealand, bringing that to a new continent, and having new challenges and getting to all work together to achieve this goal, which was like such a huge goal for so long for this company. I'll never forget how much work that was, but how rewarding it was too.
I think my favorite mission name's got to probably be Baby Come Back, mostly because it got stuck in my head the entire time we were doing that launch campaign. Baby come back.
I think one of the main reasons for success has been the company culture. As we grew, we've always maintained this effort to keep the culture. And I mean, if you look anywhere here, everything looks high quality, everything looks beautiful. This sets the culture.
Rocket Lab has a very unique camaraderie, and I think it's important to be able to go out to different sites, to New Zealand, to the US, to Wallops and so on. You have different cultures, different people combining ideas. On top of that, Rocket Lab also allows you to take about as much responsibility as you can, right? So like the more responsibility you want, the more you can get as long as you kind of continue to produce. And I find it to be a very unique combination.
The barrier to entry is so high, it is a very tough challenge, and we had the right people at the right time at the right place to make it happen.
Everyone is harder than the next, but that keeps it interesting. So, there's genuinely nothing I'd rather do.
I think my message to the foundational Electron team and the team that carries through right now is that, firstly, take a minute to be proud of what we've achieved. I think it's incredible to see what Electron was and is becoming. There's a lot of growth for Electron to continue. We've done things like interplanetary through to suborbital, and it feels like we're kind of, in some ways, just getting started for what Electron can continue to do. So just as we pioneered to bring Electron to market, I think there's just amount of pioneering and development to go moving forward to bring Electron to many other applications.
So my name is Cruz Shokura. I'm a vehicle integration technician at Rocket Lab. I have been at Rocket Lab for 3 days. I think it was just by chance that I started, and it was the 50th. Yeah, it'll be my first time seeing a launch this close, so I'm pretty excited.
Now, clearly, there has been a lot of hard work and dedication from a lot of people to make it to today's 50th launch. And another early Rocket Lab employee is Dr. George Buchanan, who has been part of Rocket Lab's guidance, navigation and control team since before Flight 1. Good morning, George.
Well, so I'm George Buchanan, and yeah, I'm head of the guidance, navigation and control team these days for Neutron. So I started off in Electron. Before Flight 1, I was doing things like figuring out how many engines we should have, and these days I'm in Neutron and doing almost exactly the same thing again.
And how do you feel on today's launch of the 50th
Well, there's good
Electron?
energy today. We've got so many people back here, but I'm still pretty nervous, to be honest. That hasn't gone away since Flight 1. The reason's changed, of course. Flight 1, I was really nervous because I didn't know if it was even going to go in the right direction. These days I'm nervous because the customers place so much trust and so much value in what we do. And so some of the payloads we're doing are really impactful to the world, and even if they're sort of part of a constellation, everyone's had so much effort poured into it. And so the customers deliver it to us, and basically after that it's fully on us to make sure it ends up in the right orbit. So it's a lot of responsibility, and I still feel that little sort of twinge of nerves and like, let's do this, let's prove why we're sort of one of the leading companies out there to do this.
If you're feeling those feelings, it means you care, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Now, earlier I mentioned that you are, in fact, an early Rocket Lab employee, and for context for viewers, each member of the team here gets a mission patch number for what time they join the team. We have about 2,000 people now in Rocket Lab, and Sir Peter Beck is mission patch number 1. George, what mission patch are you?
I've been here for 10 years, and I think I'm mission patch 12.
So, very long time you've been here, since before Flight 1, is that correct?
Well before Flight 1.
Yeah, wow. Now, you don't actually work on Electron missions anymore. That's where you started, but you now lead up the GNC team for Neutron, our new rocket. So what are some of the experiences you had with Electron that have helped prepare you for what you do now on Neutron?
Yeah, I mean, There are quite a few similarities, of course. It's still a rocket, so you still need all the basic algorithms to get it up into orbit. And I guess the new things are twofold. So one of them is the technical side. So Neutron's fully reusable retropropulsive landing, and that's really hard to do. We've seen it happen before, but it's so intricate. There are so many details, and so having a rocket which can fly forwards at sort of subsonic, transonic, supersonic, hypersonic speeds, then flip around, re-enter in exactly the same regimes. It's one of the hardest challenges out there. And so leading one of the teams which is really key to this new functionality is incredibly rewarding, but we're learning a whole bunch as well, of course. And then the second thing is that when we developed Electron, we didn't really know what we were doing. Probably shouldn't say this live, but we're a bunch of pretty young people. We hadn't launched rockets before, and so we developed everything from scratch, which is great because we understand the rockets fully. But of course, now we're doing Neutron, and so we can take all of these lessons and apply them. And so we're doing a few things a little bit differently. It's actually not as different as you'll think. We did really well for Electron, but we can tweak a few little things here and there, make it more efficient, particularly so that we can ramp up and really do a huge number of launches quickly.
Very cool. Do you have to be a mathematics genius to work in GNC?
No, I mean, we're not going to turn anyone away. If you're a mathematic genius, come and join us. But the GNC and flight software teams, we work really closely together. And we've already got a bunch of mathematic geniuses. We're actually a few roles open. Go to the website, have a little look. And sure, you need to be pretty able, but really what we're looking for is some good problem-solving skills, looking for people who are willing to dig into a problem and take ownership of it as well. And then, of course, just being sort of enthusiastic, willing to come in at 5 a.m. for interviews, willing to be on console and launch rockets. You need to be able to pick up anything and run with it.
Now, you're outside of Mission Control today, but you have spent plenty of time in the Mission Control Center on a console before. Do you miss it?
Say again?
Miss it?
Yes and no. I do miss it, particularly when the rocket lifts off and you sort of feel like, I did that. Whereas these days, of course, I'm working on Neutron and we haven't launched yet. That's coming up soon. But then the stress is pretty immense. Being on console is a funny thing because you're sitting there for hours before launch, and half the time you're not doing anything. You're sitting there monitoring everything absolutely carefully, but you're not actually actively doing anything. You're waiting perhaps for the propellants to be loaded. And so you're sitting there in this weird mixture of stress and relaxation. It's very unique.
Well, thank you so much, George, for joining us. And if you are interested in one of the guidance, navigation and control roles at Rocket Lab, like George did a good pitch for before, then you can come and join us. We have the open roles on our careers page on the Rocket Lab website for more info.
Sequence. The primary abort switch and watchdog are configured and ready. LD SUP, LD mission.
LD SUP.
Please confirm the secondary abort switch and watchdog are configured and ready.
Can confirm.
Avionics, LD mission.
LD avionics.
Confirm stage 2 umbilical POF is nominal.
Confirmed.
And confirm HVB balancing is disabled.
Confirmed.
ComOps, LD mission.
LD ComOps.
Please confirm video streams are in sync.
And confirm video streams are currently in sync.
A check-in with the countdown clock, and we are just over 17 minutes to liftoff for today's mission. And as we prepare to watch Electron take to the skies for the 50th time, let's take a closer look at our record-breaking rocket.
A small launcher dedicated for small satellites, Electron was the first of its kind to reach orbit when it first took to the skies in 2017, opening up access to space for small satellite operators. Today, it is the second most frequently launched U.S. rocket annually. More than 180 satellites have found their home in space across 40 non-Electron missions, launched from Rocket Lab's Launch Complex 1 in Mahia and Launch Complex 2 in Virginia, USA. Designed, manufactured, and launched by Rocket Lab, Electron is a two-stage to-orbit launch vehicle powered by liquid oxygen and rocket-grade kerosene. It's the world's first carbon composite orbital launch vehicle, making it strong but still lightweight, and also gives Electron its sleek black look. The rocket is powered by 10 Rutherford engines, 9 at the bottom of the first stage and a 10th space-optimized engine to power the second stage to orbit. The Rutherford engine is the world's first to use an electric pump feed cycle for orbital space travel, making use of the electric motors and batteries to drive its propellant pumps. It's also 3D printed using additive manufacturing processes, another industry first. Electron is also equipped with a third upper stage, known as the kick stage, that serves as the last mile delivery to deploy multiple payloads to precise and individual orbits, even when flying on the same mission. It's to this kick stage that the 5 Kinéis satellites are attached, ready for deployment.
Today's launch will be our 8th launch of the year, putting us well on pace to beat last year's record of 10 launches. And it is lifting off from Launch Complex 1 on New Zealand's Mahia Peninsula, a launch site we built to enable high-frequency launch made possible by the very limited sea and air traffic around that site. It's the world's first orbital launch site and has played host to 45 of 49 Electron missions to date, with the remaining 4 launches taking place from Launch Complex 2 in Wallops, Virginia.
Now, Launch Complex 1 is our highest volume launch site, largely thanks to that minimal air and sea traffic. But crucially, it launches our Electron rocket and nothing else. But over at the NASA Wallops Flight Facility in Virginia, USA, Electron will soon be sharing turf with Neutron. Now, Neutron will have its own dedicated pad at Wallops called Launch Complex 3, and in recent weeks we've reached some key milestones in its construction. We've poured concrete for the pad, the water tower for the pad's deluge system is up, and the installation of commodities tanks is underway. And just a couple of miles down the road, the Neutron Assembly and Integration Complex is taking shape, and this will be Neutron's final stop before it rolls out to the pad for liftoff mid-next year.
T-minus 12 minutes and all eyes are on Electron. We're coming up on one of the final status checks before liftoff, the go, no-go poll from our operators and mission control and range control. We're going to tune into the audio loops now to listen in for the calls and see if we get perfect greens across the board.
All stations LD on mission, proceeding with the go, no-go sequence. Stage.
Stage is go.
Avionics.
Avionics is go.
GNC.
GNC is go.
VCON.
VCON is go.
T1.
T1 is go.
GC.
GC is go.
PLS.
PLS is go.
RSO.
RSO is go.
MET.
MET is go.
T1.
LD T1.
Confirming go or no go for launch.
T1 is go.
MM.
MM is go.
LD SUP.
LD SUP is go.
Okay, all stations, the go, no, go sequence is complete. We are T-minus 11 minutes and 3 seconds and counting. We are go for terminal count auto sequence at T-minus 10 minutes. From this time, the 3-word hold procedure is in effect.
Just the way we like it, greens all around, and we are go for launch. What you heard there was Launch Director Michael Pearson making the call out that we are proceeding with the planned liftoff at 6:13 a.m. local time, now just less than 10 minutes away.
So far, we've heard a lot about Electron, the Kinéis payloads on board today, and the team behind all of our launches, but we haven't heard from the man who started it all. So we caught up with our founder and CEO, Sir Peter Beck, who you may know recently received a knighthood for services to aerospace, business and education. Let's get his take on the road to 50 launches.
It shouldn't be forgotten that we weren't the preordained winner of the small launch vehicle race. I can remember, raising capital in Silicon Valley, and the first question that I would always get is, why do you think you can beat Virgin Orbit and Richard Branson? For me, it was always really obvious that the product that we were building was the right fit. The team were working their butts off. We had the right engineering and the right product for the market at the right time. You can produce as many rockets as you want, but if you don't have the customers, then it doesn't work either. A huge sense of gratitude from us for all of our customers, but especially the early ones, who were really the pioneers in small launch along with us. So being first to 50 really matters. And it matters because, look, we're all competitive in this industry. It's an important kind of driver for the people and for the company. Everybody was pushing and continues to push to build vehicles and get customers in orbit faster and faster. Everybody says it's incredibly difficult. We've always said it's incredibly difficult, but it is incredibly difficult to scale a launch vehicle. I could not imagine building Neutron without having the experience of Electron. Now, a smaller rocket is actually harder to build and launch than a bigger rocket, and I can put my hand on my heart and say that now. The lessons that are learned on a small rocket can be learned at a much lower cost, both time and financially. So the magic with Electron and the team around Electron is that we understand that our customer is coming to us because they have very specific requirements for their spacecraft or for their orbit. So as a result, we've done the craziest things you can think of with Electron, whether it be, deliver a satellite to the moon, deliver a hypersonic test platform, a rendezvous mission from a rocket, not actually from a satellite. Sometimes we'll go to orbit, we'll raise an orbit, we'll change an orbital plane, we'll drop an orbit, and that's fundamentally because the team and the product, we all understand that they come to us to do missions that nobody else can do. Flight 1 very, very much, felt like climbing a mountain. One foot after the other, the odd rock slide comes at you, dodge until you actually get to the top. We were shaking down a new rocket, a new launch pad, a new team, and doing everything for the first time. And what is today, very, very standard, we were learning all of this for the first time. One of the most satisfying things for me is actually seeing early employees, a lot of which came straight out of university. Those guys sat on consoles and made calls that are company, winning or company-ending calls. Watching those people grow into, senior leaders and managers and mentors for the rest of the company and the team is immensely satisfying.
What would you say to the team on reaching 50?
Party hard, team. We made it to 50 and we made it there the fastest.
Definitely agree with the sentiment at the end of that video. Congratulations to the Rocket Lab team all around the world.
Absolutely, dream team. Now, if you've been following us for the past 49 missions, you'll know all about Electron and exactly what to expect from today's launch sequence. But if you're joining us for the first time, here is what you need to know. Electron is what's known as a small launch vehicle. It stands at 18 meters or 59 feet tall, and it can lift a payload with a mass of up to around 320 kilos or 705 pounds. Today's payload, though, is around half that mass at 150 kilograms, And the rocket is pretty lightweight too. Electron is the world's first orbital class rocket made from carbon composite material, which is incredibly lightweight for its strength, allowing us to maximize payload capacity, of course, but also giving Electrons their signature black look. Before Electron is fueled, it weighs just 1 ton. But once the tanks are filled with liquid oxygen and kerosene, it weighs more than 12 times that amount. So there you have it, Prachi. Rockets are really just flying fuel tanks with engines to move them in the right direction.
Yeah, pretty simple and very true, Jamie. Speaking of those engines, there are 9 3D printed Rutherford engines on Electron's first stage and a single vacuum-optimized Rutherford engine on the second stage. Now, there is a lesser-known 11th engine on every Electron launch as well, and it is known as Curie. The small but mighty engine is what enables us to maneuver the kick stage in orbit, including raising and lowering orbits to perfectly position satellites that we carry for deployment. Like many rockets, Electron's stages operate a bit like a relay race. The first stage, the single largest structure of the rocket, carries the mission for the first 2.5 minutes of flight, propelling us to around 80 kilometers in altitude. After that, the first stage separates and falls back to Earth in preparation for the second stage to take over the race. That single Rutherford engine on the second stage then burns bright for another 6.5 minutes, propelling us all the way to an elliptical orbit. And then the final leg of the journey is completed by the kick stage, which circularizes the orbit ahead of payload deployment. So now that you know what to expect, let's watch it all unfold in real time as we enter the final minutes of the count. How are we tracking, Muriel?
Hey Prachi, we are at 4 minutes 36 seconds remaining in the countdown to liftoff for No Time to Lose, and operations are progressing smoothly as we inch closer to engine ignition for today's launch. Now at T-minus 2 minutes, Electron's flight computer will take over the countdown and autonomously run through the final operations. Good oxygen will continue to flow Electron all until T-minus 1 minute and 30 seconds. We hear a call from mission control when that happens, indicating that the lock system is in recirculation. Then after that, we'll hear confirmation that Electron's first and second stages are fully pressurized and ready for launch. Is to listen out for the final 10-second countdown from the launch director. We're going to hand it over now to mission control to listen into that final pre-launch sequence.
All stations LD on mission. From now, there should be no red flags in your critical LCCs. VCON LD mission.
LD VCON.
Lock auto sequence and confirm.
Auto sequence is locked.
Confirm all expected flight computer as-goes are green.
That's confirmed.
Okay, all stations, we are go for auto sequence start at T-minus 2 minutes. LD is go for launch.
Vehicle is fully on internal power. AFTS is green and enabled for flight.
Box load is complete. System is in recirculation. Anti-geyser is disabled.
Stage 1 and Stage 2 tanks are pressed for flight.
High flow engine purge enabled.
T-minus 20 seconds and counting. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Liftoff.
Stage 1 propulsion
We are
nominal.
on our way to space. Our 50th Electron rocket has taken flight and is headed to orbit carrying 5 satellites for Kinéis. Now up next you'll hear the call out for max Q, or maximum aerodynamic pressure, which is the point in flight when Electron experiences peak structural loads. The GNC operator on console will give us the call that max Q is approaching, and then we'll listen out for confirmation of that.
Max Q.
Cleared max Q.
Excellent to have that confirmation that we have passed through max Q. We are now at over 2,000 kilometers an hour in speed and just past 17 kilometers in altitude on our way to orbit for Kinéis. Now next up, there are 3 key events for the mission: main engine cutoff, or MECO, stage separation, and then stage 2 engine ignition. MECO is when all 9 Rutherford engines shut down simultaneously on the first stage to prepare for the next phase in flight. Then after those engines are off, Electron's first and second stages will separate. Stage 1 will return back to Earth, while Stage 2 heads in the opposite direction and onward to orbit. Then the vacuum-optimized Rutherford engine on Electron's second stage will light up to propel the stage for this second phase of flight. Now those 3 events all take place in quick succession over just a few seconds, so let's listen in for the calls.
15 seconds to staging.
Entered burnout detect mode.
MECO confirmed.
Stage separation confirmed.
Stage 2 ignition confirmed.
3 successes and 3 milestones down. That was MECO, stage separation, and second stage engine ignition. We are now more than 2 minutes into flight and on the way to orbit for Kinéis. And up next will be fairing jettison, when Electron's fairing splits in 2 and falls away.
Stage 2 guidance is nominal.
Fairing jettison confirmed.
And that there was the call out for fairing jettison, in which you also saw on your screen, exposing the payload of Kinéis' 5 satellites to space ahead of their deployment. Electron is traveling at over 8,000 kilometers an hour and at an altitude past 126 kilometers. Just a couple more minutes remaining in this second stage burn.
Holding nominal.
We are now at T plus 3 minutes 53 seconds into the mission, now more than 9,000 kilometers in speed, going up to orbit of 635 kilometers. Now, Electron's second stage is moving at more than, like I said, 9,000 kilometers an hour, and we are up past 155 kilometers in altitude as we approach orbital velocity. That sweet spot of balance between moving fast enough to travel around Earth, but not so fast that the satellites escape Earth's gravity altogether. Now, our speed target for payload deployment is at least 28,000 kilometers an hour, so we have a little faster to go just yet. We are still partway through the engine burn on Electron's second stage, and one of the things that sets Electron apart from many other rocket designs is the use of electric pumps in the Rutherford engines. Now, those pumps are powered by batteries, which deplete as the engine draws power throughout the flight. But once we use up all that available energy in one set, we switch to a second set of batteries to complete the mission. And once they're dead, then they're gone, and we lose the batteries to drop the extra weight. Now, this clever little maneuver is referred to as the battery hot swap. Keep an eye on your screen to see those shiny silver batteries eject and fall away, and we should hear the call come from Mission Control soon.
HVB battery discharge nominal, approaching hot swap in roughly 30 seconds.
Throttling down.
Battery jettison confirmed.
Guidance is nominal, 150 seconds remaining.
There we go, that was battery hot swap for the second stage Rutherford engine. The mission is continuing nominally at more than 16,000 kilometers an hour and now past 204 kilometers in altitude. And up next, we will have the final phase of stage 2 flight, including SECO, or second engine cutoff, which is then followed by kick stage separation. And this is where the kick stage, which is carrying Kinéis satellites, separates from Electron's second stage. No, the final engine cutoff on stage 2 is coming up now, just shy of 9 minutes into the mission. The engine you see on your screen is actually our 499th Rutherford built for an Electron mission, not our 500th engine for our 50th mission like you might expect. And that is because while each Electron features 10 Rutherford engines, 9 on the first stage and 1 on the second stage, we actually recovered and reflew a Rutherford engine on an Electron mission for the first time in 2023. So today instead marks number 499.
Just under a minute.
It is now T plus 8 minutes 22 seconds into the mission, and we are fast approaching second engine cutoff. Now, just before that happens, the Rutherford engine will begin to throttle down in preparation for a complete stop. That milestone is scheduled to take place around 8 minutes 58 seconds into the mission, so let's wait for that confirmation now.
Seco confirmed.
Stage 3 separation confirmed.
Nominal transport.
Great news there from Mission Control. The second stage engine has now shut down and the kick stage has separated. And that means Kinéis satellites are on the kick stage for a coast phase around Earth. Now, once it has looped back around, the 3D printed Curie engine on the kick stage will ignite twice to complete some final positioning maneuvers before the 5 satellites are deployed to their 653-kilometer circular orbit. All that remains now is to wait for those final Curie circularization burns scheduled at around T plus 52 minutes. Over to Jamie and Prachi to tell us what we can expect from that phase of the mission.
Thanks, Muriel. And yes, that's right. We're on the home stretch of our 50th launch. Right now, the kick stage is coasting around Earth in an elliptical orbit, gradually making its way to the apogee, or the point in orbit where the kick stage is furthest from Earth. Once it reaches that point, the Curie engine will ignite for 2 separate burns to raise the kick stage's orbit and circularize it to 650 kilometers above the Earth's surface.
Around 1 minute after that final burn, the Kinéis satellites will be deployed in sequence. First will be a single satellite deployed off the top of the kick stage, followed by the remaining 4 satellites deployed in pairs from opposite sides. So while we wait for that, enjoy the relaxing tunes from our good friend Tim Dodd, aka the Everyday Astronaut. We'll see you back here soon.
Welcome back to the launch of No Time to Lose, our 50th Electron launch. Just about 50 minutes ago, Electron lifted off from Launch Complex 1 in New Zealand, carrying 5 satellites for French IoT company Kinéis. Those satellites are now just minutes away from being deployed to their final orbits.
Yes, the Kickstage's Curie engine is performing 2 burns today to position the satellites for precise deployment. The first of those has Curie lighting up to place the Kickstage and Kinéis payloads on a circular path, what we call circularizing the orbit, and this burn lasts for just under 3 minutes. We're approaching ignition for that shortly.
Curie ignition confirmed.
You heard it right there, a successful Curie ignition. This Curie burn will last about 2.5 minutes, rounding out our orbit from its current 650-kilometer apogee. We only have a few more milestones to go in our 50th launch. Curie shutdown comes next, followed by a second ignition to make a slight adjustment specific to our customer, and then finally 3 separate deployment sequences for the Kinéis payloads. They'll be about 45 seconds apart, starting with the forward-most satellite. This launch has been tailored specifically to meet Kinéis' mission requirements, giving them greater control over the launch schedule, orbit, and deployment parameters than would be possible on a larger rideshare mission.
Those tailored mission parameters for this launch include an instantaneous launch window and the special Curie burns that Prachi mentioned before. After this first burn to circularize the Kickstage's orbit, Curie will ignite again for 8 seconds to set a specific argument of perigee, enabling Kinéis to deploy 5 satellites to a precise orbit as needed. Without getting into the nitty-gritty of orbital mechanics too much, the argument of perigee determines where on the globe the orbit is highest and where it is lowest. A little bit more complicated than that, but that's why we have an expert team here guiding the mission.
Curie engine cutoff confirmed.
There we go. That's engine shutdown of the Curie engine on the Kickstage. Up next is payload deployment for the first 5 of Kinéis' planned 25 satellite constellation. Each of the satellites is a 16U platform, so somewhere between the size of a toaster and a microwave, we think, and weighs around 30 kilograms, making the total payload mass of today's Electron launch around 150 kilograms. And with that Curie milestone out of the way, Muriel is joined by a pivotal team member in the development of that small but mighty engine. Let's join Muriel in mission control with Simon Moffat. Muriel?
With Simon Moffat, who has played a key part in our Curie engine on the Kickstage. But I will let him introduce himself to you and tell us a bit more about the role that he has here at Rocket Lab. Simon?
Hi, Muriel. Thanks for having me. I'm Simon Moffat. I'm the manager of spacecraft propulsion and physics here at Rocket Lab.
And you have been part of the company for a very long time now.
Yeah.
How long have you been here?
It's been 8 years now, yeah. And I was an intern before that, so coming up on almost 10 years since I first started the company.
I wonder what 10 years in Rocket Lab years really is.
It's a long time.
Now, you brought a special treat for us today. Can we hold this up for the camera to see it? And can you please describe to me what this is?
So this is the Curie engine. This is the thrust chamber for the Curie. Normally on Electron, Curie has a bit more going on. There's tanks and valves and a few other things, but this is just the thrust chamber.
Just by size comparison to the Rutherford, it is quite a small rocket engine.
It is a lot smaller. Definitely doesn't pack quite the same punch, but it's quite a precise instrument. Gets us into a very accurate orbit for the payloads.
Is there anything special about this engine in particular? Any sort of nice ways of commemorating it that you have that you might want to tell us about? Leading question there, but
Yeah. So I mean, both of our engines are named after great scientists, and Marie Curie is quite an inspiration for us. She was an amazing woman, amazing scientist, and on the chamber here, you won't be able to see it in the camera, but it's printed in every chamber. A quote from her, which is, "The way of progress was neither swift nor easy." And that reminds us that even someone who could win 2 Nobel Prizes didn't find everything easy, didn't get everything done quickly. So makes us feel a bit better when things take a bit longer.
Kindred spirits, perhaps.
Absolutely.
Is that printed on every rocket? A rocket engine, pardon me?
Yeah, that's right, on every Curie engine.
Wow, very cool. Speaking of printed, Curie is a 3D printed engine as well, is that correct?
Yeah, both Rutherford and Curie are 3D printed. Makes it a lot easier to make the complicated geometry of the chamber.
Can you describe which parts are 3D printed for me, without giving our secrets away, of course?
Yeah, absolutely. So the thrust chamber and nozzle are, and then some of the pieces in here are as well.
Very nice. Now, Simon, congratulations on launch day, of course, launch 50 for you today. How did that feel, watching that from outside of Mission Control?
It felt amazing. It's a little bit different than Flight 1. I think in Flight 1 we had a lot less visuals on what was going on, a lot less idea of what was going to happen. And definitely we have a lot better understanding of kind of how things are supposed to go. And obviously we're seeing things happen the way they should.
Now, you touched on it a little bit beforehand, but you've been here since you were an intern, and you've played a pivotal role in helping to develop not only Electron, but Curie itself. What other projects have you moved on to? How else have you grown during your time at the company?
Yeah, I've been really fortunate, actually, to get to do all kinds of different things at Rocket Lab. I even, at one point, did a secondment to the avionics team and worked on the flight termination system. But more recently, moving from the Curie engine and Electron, it's a very obvious progression into our space systems team and the propulsion products for our spacecraft. So more recently, I worked on the Hypercurie engine, and then after that, we've moved over to the ESCAPADE mission, which is a NASA science mission headed to Mars soon.
Amazing stuff. Can you describe to me a bit about what the Hypercurie is for those who don't know?
So the Hypercurie is kind of the upsized version of Curie, hence the hyper in the name. It's a hypergolic, electrically pumped engine, very high performance. That's what got us, got the capstone payload around the moon. And so, it was a long development program, very hard slog for many people, getting through that. Many new things developed that just haven't really been done before, especially not flown in space. So it was a really rewarding program to work on, and very cool engine to have developed.
Did you ever think you were going to help develop a rocket engine that would go to the moon for NASA?
Oh, absolutely not, but I feel so fortunate that I've been able to.
Wonderful. Now, you talked a little bit about ESCAPADE as well. Can you describe the work that you're doing with that program?
Yeah, so the team was working on the propulsion system for the ESCAPADE spacecraft. So there's actually 2 spacecraft, so we have to build 2 propulsion systems. It's a little bit of a new type of system for us. I won't go into any of the specific details, but it's been a very interesting challenge, and we're very excited to see that lift off when it does.
That's going to be an exciting mission when it does launch, right?
Absolutely, very exciting.
Now, are we recruiting for anybody to help join you to get ESCAPADE to Mars or any of the other missions that we're working on?
I appreciate you asking. Yes, we have several open roles right now in the propulsion team on Space Systems and the rest of Space Systems, looking for senior engineers and team lead, both in chemical propulsion and in electric propulsion. So, please take a look at the website.
And now, folks, you know who to ask for an interview. So thank you so much, Simon, for joining me. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you very much, Marielle.
Curie ignition confirmed. And Curie engine cutoff confirmed.
Perfect final orbit.
Kinéis 1 deployment confirmed.
There it is, deployment of Kinéis 1. The first satellite of the Kinéis constellation is now at home. Up next will be Kinéis 2 and 4, followed by Kinéis 3 and 5.
Kinéis 2 and Kinéis 4 deployment confirmed.
Swift maneuver there, and Kinéis 2 and 4 are safely in their home in orbit. We're now awaiting confirmation of the final two spacecraft to join their colleagues, starting off the Kinéis IoT constellation.
Kinéis 3 and Kinéis 5 deployments confirmed.
Mission successful, no time to lose, our 50th Electron launch. Welcome to orbit, Kinéis. Today's launch was the first of 5 dedicated launches for the team at Kinéis, so we can't wait to do it again soon. Congratulations to each and every person behind this launch and the 49 Electrons that came before it. Making it to space once is a monumental achievement, so doing it another 50 times is faster than any other commercially developed rocket in history puts us in verified air. Now, last but not least, thank you to all of our mission partners who have flown on Electron. You have helped us to make history and create better access to space for small satellites. We are honoured you chose Electron as your ride to space, and we can't wait to do it again for the next 50 launches and beyond. Now, while we're celebrating 50 launches today, we won't be pausing for long. In fact, we'll be back again soon with the next Electron on the pad. So stay tuned to our social media channels for mission updates on the next mission. But for now, we will wrap up today's broadcast and see you back here soon. Thank you for joining us, and for the 50th time, this is Rocket Lab Mission Control signing off.